first to a rare piece of good news for the government and a welcome reprieve for the Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak's controversial illegal migration bill is set to become law after ministers pulled off a dramatic late-night victory against the House of Lords, where rebellious peers tried to water down the proposals. Under the new rules, only children and genuinely sick people will be allowed to apply for asylum in the UK. All other small boat arrivals are to be detained without bail for 28 days before being deported to their country of origin or a safe third state. Well, outraged opposition MPs today accuse the government of ramming through its agenda.
The decision to press ahead with this illegal and immoral bill, I think, is a shame on our whole country. It stains us, it stains our democracy. It's not going to work either. We know that this so-called deterrence doesn't work when people are fleeing war and persecution.
Well, it comes as a Tory MP launched a last-ditch attempt to stop a giant barge from being used to house 500 male migrants on the south coast. Fearful local protesters jeered, shouted and waved placards as the Bibby Stockholm, a 3-storey and 300-foot-long accommodation vessel, was pulled by a tug into Portland this morning. West Dorset MP Chris Loader has written to the Home Office claiming experts have failed to carry out sufficient safety checks on the boat. There are so many problems with elements of this story. I mean, the first thing to say, which I think we would all agree with, is we understand the constant cry, something must be done, about both the level of migration, the level of illegal migration and the small boats, all of which are slightly different issues. But a lot of people think that's one big issue and that we are, we have no space left and that the politicians haven't got a grip on this. I also have some sympathy with the Dorset MP and the Dorset residents because, of course, they don't want this barge there. You would be hard-pushed to find any community anywhere across the country that would welcome a barge of 500 asylum seekers. I just can't help thinking that overall, fundamentally, this is all a red herring, and we need to find a system where the 200,000 asylum seekers who haven't had their applications processed get processed.
I mean, that's the stupidity of this. And as you rightly say, Daisy, there's so many facets to this story in everything you've just said. So, firstly, the amount of money it costs for that stupid barge, you could have probably employed 10,000 people to start working on the backlog of people who are locked into the system, trying to get their application process. So that's the first thing. So that's a total waste of money. The idea was it was symbolic. It was throw a little bit of meat out there. Oh, look, it's a barge. It's on water. It's not on land. Therefore, we're not really housing these men. It's an absolute catastrophe. Rishi Sunak, I mean, there's also another thing about the democracy. It's gone to the House of Lords, back to the House of Commons, back to the House of Lords, back to the House of Commons. The House of Commons were always going to overrule this anyway, so you can sort of argue a bit of a waste of time there, and it calls into question the authenticity, if you like, of the House of Lords. But overarchingly, the fact that this week we've still seen people coming over the channel in big numbers, and the amount of people that came in one day this week would be too many for that barge alone, just to give you an idea of the scale. Yeah. And secondly, I don't believe Rishi Sunak really believes any of this stuff anyway. Yeah. I don't think it will work. I don't think it will have the desired effect, and I can't for one second imagine that every single person that arrives in Dover from tomorrow is going to be deported.
Now, you see, I think that's really interesting. I think it is significant, actually, what they did. So 44,000 people came illegally last year. We think it will be 88,000 this year. So, actually, politically, it was really interesting. You're right, the ping-pong that went back and forward between the houses, they eventually overturned all of those amendments and finally got it through. They didn't use the Parliament Act, which I thought they might have to do to push it through. But also what this says, I think, is a bigger signal. People will be watching this when they're abroad. They'll be watching to see what happens. It's about actually drawing a line in the sand. Now, what they do say is they will be deported and go back to a safe third country. Now, there isn't a safe third country unless they get Rwanda away. But there's something else going on here, which is, of course, this is electorally very important. It's one of the things stuck above his head, isn't it? Saying, we will actually... It's
one of the 5.
It's one of the 5, and he will be judged on this, and that's why it's so important for him. The question is now what happens from here. In terms of the electorate, we've got 3 by-elections on Thursday, and I just wonder, do people look at this and think, He's done some of what he said he would do. I'll give them a go on Thursday.
I think that's exactly what this is all about. That this is about trying to save the by-election and trying to get more votes. And it's not actually about the nearly 200,000 men, women and children that are at the centre of this crisis. And all this bill does tries to divert attention away from the fact that the government has failed woefully, number one, in stopping the people trafficking that is happening, and failed woefully to process asylum seekers properly, and we have this huge backlog in a Home Office that's not fit for purpose. This bill is like after the horse is bolted from the stable. It's far too late, and actually all it does is break international law and makes our government look cruel and completely unorganised, which is what they are.
Morally, it doesn't feel quite right, but I understand where some people in this country are coming from and saying, well, what are we going to do next? I'd feel better about this if we had put a processing, I'd say plant, a processing centre in France so everyone can go through there. And if you get turned away, then you're turned away. And if you try and find a legal method after that, then so be it. But we're still not solving the problem of helping people who are
getting on the boat in the first place.
Exactly.
But surely this is a deterrent.
That's what we were saying.
But surely there is a deterrent. You know, I'm not necessarily on the government side here, but in some ways people will look at this, and if it is enacted, then you're going to think twice about coming over. But your point is really valid about safe and legal routes. Where are they?
Yeah.
Where are the processing centres?
Yeah.
The devil is in the detail here, and I don't think we have the detail.
But it's a bit
And
like
also-
Roadrunner, isn't it? Because you've got, you know, they've tried... Suella Bright, every time she's wheeled out, I mean, we played the clip earlier today on talkTV. A month ago, she stood there at that Conservative conference thing and said, you know, there's no reason why butchers and lorry drivers and carpenters and bricklayers should not be British. And then to fast forward 1 month, and the government are announcing we've got to import foreign labour to fill all of those jobs because they can't find people to do it.
Because they're being lazy.
They've lost all credibility on
absolutely.
immigration.
And also, the thing is as well, if we're not... there seems to be no focus on providing safe routes. There seems to be no focus on humanity. And actually, I think that this will and will not be a deterrent. There is still going to be people that are going to pay that money and still get in those boats for whatever reason. Maybe because the country where they're coming from, things are so terrible that actually this is much better. This alternative is much better.
Do you think
the
they'll
way
still
they've
come over
from.
if you can't claim asylum and you are then detained for 28 days and then you're removed?
Yes,
Because
but
if
David,
you think about it, the places where some, and I know it's not all, I know that, I'm not naive, but some people, where they're coming from is so awful. This is a better alternative.
I think that's one of the issues that a lot of people think, that the reason we're getting so many asylum seekers and migrants is because we're soft. And they are not taking into account that every other country is getting more than they've ever had before, because there is a global migration crisis, because the world has become a much less safe place. We have more civil wars, more other wars going on, and that's why there are so many people trying to find a safe haven. And of course, they will continue to come for another reason, which is because they know that there are 200,000 people on the books that are, just sort of, mouldering away and can quite successfully disappear because the system isn't processing those applications.
But of course you can't retrospectively apply it. So those 170,000 or whatever, they will have to be processed. What the government is saying is anyone coming in now will not go through that process and will be deported.
But people can disappear.
People can disappear,
well, that's
absolutely.
True. But in that 28 days, so... and bearing in mind, there's a lot of loads of legal hurdles and hoops to jump through on this before any of this can, the manifestation of this. But in those 28 days, are we seriously saying that those people will be, all of them, could be thousands and thousands of people? Where are they going to be detained? So this won't be the hotels that we've seen.
Well, I have an answer for you,
bases.
Ian.
The hotels at the moment you can walk out of, you can do whatever you like. You've got the freedom to do that.
So
Where are we going to put all these
1,000 of them are or were going to be on 2 giant cruise ships.
Oh, the cruise ship debacle.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant. However, they were unable to find anywhere to dock and have been returned to their owners. This is news in today. So plans for one of the ships was going to be near Liverpool, was going to dock near Liverpool. That was scrapped because the port operator said, thanks, but no thanks. So they clearly hadn't done the paper.
Can't find anywhere to dock. We're an island, for God's sake.
The other
Can't find anywhere to dock. This is just another catastrophic perfect symbol of
The
how
other one was
bad
meant
this-
to be near Edinburgh, and they said, thanks, but not us, Gov, take it away. So they've had to. It's not. We don't yet know how much the government has paid for those boats, but they're being sent back to senders.
I think Afia is absolutely right.
Oh, my
because
God.
if you are, well, I know I often do, because if you are, genuine from, I don't know, economic migrant, whatever, doesn't actually matter. Whichever one of those categories you're in, this is worth the risk. It's absolutely what you think. Do you know what? Because they're probably thinking exactly what I'm saying. This place is a catastrophe. It's like Roadrunner. They keep trying new things. Well, what's the next one? Here's the Acme migrant catching kit.
Yeah.
Let's try and we'll try this method this time. Nothing seems to work.
But listen, those 2 cruise ships have been returned.
Yeah.
Massive loss of money. But please spare a thought for Jane McDonald. Where's she going to perform now? She was booked for 6 months on them ships.
Very good point.
Oh,
Well,
Chris.
and
also-
She loves a captive audience, as our Jane, doesn't she?
And we do all have sympathy for asylum seekers and migrants, but that really is putting them through.
That's just too much.
The answer's been staring us in the face.
We allow Jane McDonald.
I can see Suella Braverman standing there. We've tried everything, but finally we're deploying Jane. And I've no idea why Suella's now speaking like this.
Yeah, I did wonder. Where's the
Vague
woman?
northern accent.
I just want to say that was a joke, and we do love Jane McDonald. We didn't mean any
Who doesn't
offence.
like Jane McDonald?
Everyone loves
Just
it.
now, Ian.